The totem looms over you. Its lifeless eyes seem to follow you around. The totem stands dormant. The totem stares ahead.
birth to birth.
Blood to blood, earth to earth,
Blood to blood,
wood
earth
to
to
wood,
earth,
birth
wood
to
to wood,
birth.
birth to birth.
I've spotted something.
The upper part of the tombstone has worn away. A pauper lieth here. What he lacked in skill, he balanced with self-sacrifice. In them he died, in them he is interred. The upper part of the tombstone has worn away. What he lacked in skill, he balanced with self-sacrifice.
I've spotted something. The dead here stir. I hear their whispers.
Look who's come to join the party. do get around, don't you?
He takes a satisfied sniff and rubs his hands together. His lips stretch into a mischievous smirk.
When it comes to graveyards, I'm a kid in a candy shop. All sorts of goodies and gewgaws for the taking. And a bit of rousing conversation. If you know what to dig, that is. Ah, it's a quandary, you see. I'm not exactly welcome in the Stone Garden. The servants that tend the graves, well, their master, this Riker fellow, caught me nosing around, so he had them chase me off. The spirits within are particularly feisty as well. Can't say why. I'm as gentle as can be. Alas, I'm stuck sniffing out herbs and fungi on the outskirts.
He presses a forefinger against his chin and hums.
This is when having access to a God-woken might come in handy. You see, beyond the gates, there's something that my heart, such as it is set on. Well, that's the gold-plated question it is. I dare say you'll enjoy this story. Somewhere in this graveyard lies an object of tremendous power. Or so the legends say, anyway. Belonged to a family buried near here, the Surreys. I've been reading up on them. An ancient clan of eccentrics and oddballs. Fascinating people, truly. Old Joanna was the last. The poor dear. Had no money, no children, just this incredible heirloom passed down to her through the generations. Problem is, no one knows what this object is, only that it's an astounding piece of work. Seems Joanna took its secrets to her grave, rather literally.
His coy grin freezes.
I can recite each page from memory, but I've neither the time nor the inclination.
Tarquin sighs, and his lips unfreeze. For a moment, he looks almost modest.
It pains me to say, but you've talents in the adventuring department that I do not. This heirloom could prove valuable for both of us. Beautiful. The Surrey tomb must be somewhere nearby. And whatever that object is in there, I bet it's impressive.
He looks toward the graveyard.
I do wish I could wander inside. It would be nice to look up some old friends. See if they're in good spirits.
It's not a silent monk, but it seems just as blank.
The servant responds with a blank look and a low groan.
In death, the dwarves give eagles life. An elegant passing for an inelegant people.
The eagle glowers at you with one baleful eye, keeping the other eye firmly trained on the stringy morsels of rotting flesh dangling from its beak.
You dare touch Master's gifts. No invitation. Leave now. Leave me and Master alone.
The eagle glowers at you with one baleful eye, keeping the other eye firmly trained on the stringy morsels of...
You dare! You...
Rude and cultured, both at once. I know of little of dwarven death rituals. What role does this woman play? Locked in perpetual prayer. Keep trying, my friend. I've spotted something.
The plinth of the statue bears a series of deep, circular scratches upon its stone. The plinth of the statue bears... You cringe at the sound of stone. The statue rotates. The sculpture... The statue rotates with...
What's this? I found something.
The headless statue looms over you. Its plinth... The servant responds with a...
What's this? I found something.
Vilnix Creever. Almost sounds like a lizard name. But here...
These are lizard remains, but in the human section of the graveyard. Something's amiss.
You lay your hand on the withered lizard remains. A chill caresses the back of your neck, and the breeze seems to carry an echoing moan. Pauline Lacey lies here, burned in her bed. As in life, so in death.
Won't budge.
Here lies Porphyria Swan, died of shrieking hysteria. Let the gossips chatter, no matter. Arthur Bree lies here, sadly missed by customers and family alike. Here rests some of Granson Lock. May the rest of him find peace.
As beautiful as always, if I'm willing to whisk me away from this place.
Here lies Jim Freel, taciturn in life, silent in death.
What cause did this knight serve, I wonder? Voices, the wisdom of elven ascendants. An ancestor tree. The spirit of the tree may have much to say.
The roots of a great ancestor tree reach from deep underground to the surface above and beyond. But this tree feeds you are a scion of the elves. The mother tree demands your blood. You do not have a choice. She has a plan, and you must serve her with your death. You heed your mother's wishes and take root. But then you hear a voice, a friendly whisper from beyond. The voice knows you, he understands you, he loves you. He offers you your freedom and asks but one small service in return. Grateful, you accept. In an instant, you are an elf once more, walking in the world. But your new friend begins to make demands. Small services, then larger and more often. They cause you pain. At last, he bids you guard your tree. He expects you shall have guests. You shall kill the Godwoken when they come. Then you shall be free. The roots of a great ancestor tree reach...
A grand altar indeed. Lizard death rites are nothing if not dramatic. Another statue in the stone garden. Nothing more or less. It won't respond to my touch. A stone king. Just as effective as a real one, I reckon.
Here lies Old Man Malik. No dancing on this grave. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. The name upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. This grave marker is old. Whatever name was once carved upon it is no longer legible. This grave marker is old. Whatever name was once carved upon it is no longer legible. An ancient grave marker. The name upon it has faded away. This grave marker is old. Whatever name was once carved upon it is no longer legible. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. The elements have made it impossible to make out the name upon this grave marker. Whatever name was once carved upon it is no longer legible. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. The name upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. The elements have made it impossible to make out the name upon this grave marker. The elements have made it impossible to make out the name upon this grave marker. This grave marker is old. Whatever name was once carved upon it is the name upon it has faded away. To read the name upon this old grave marker. The name upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. The name upon it has faded away. Grave marker. The name upon it has faded away. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. Time and the elements have left this grave marker illegible. The elements have made it impossible. The name upon the name upon this grave marker can no longer be made out. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. This grave marker is old. Whatever name was once carved upon it is no longer legible. The elements have made it impossible to make out the name upon this grave marker. The name upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. The name upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. The elements have made it impossible to make out the name upon this grave marker. Whatever name was once carved upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. An ancient grave marker. The name upon it has faded away. To read the name upon this old grave marker. Impossible to make out the name upon this grave marker. The name upon it has faded away. The name upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. The name upon the old grave marker and the elements have left this grave marker illegible. Stone Garden, be welcome. An ancient grave marker. The elements have made it has faded away. To make out the name upon this grave marker. To read the name upon this old grave marker. To make out the name upon this grave marker. The name upon it has faded away. The name upon the old grave marker can no longer be made out. The name upon the old grave marker an ancient can grave no longer be made out. The name upon it has faded away. It is no longer possible to read the name upon this old grave marker. Here lies an unknown farmhand, not a dwarf, but of them, a smallish man of no small heart. Here rests some of Granson Lock. May the rest of him find peace. Did you expect a needle? Within the stone garden's walls, peace be thy immortal fortune, relieved of toil, free of indignity, until thou art called to serve. Within the stone garden's walls, peace be thy immortal fortune, relieved of toil, free of indignity, until thou art called to serve. As you reach to push open the heavy door, the coils and whirls of engraved wood dance into a new pattern. The semblance of a face arises, a face that seems to look right through you.
A little sorcerer, come to play. You are a sorcerer, are you not? Perhaps even God-woken. Tell me true, now.
Silence greets your answer. In the distance, you hear the screech of an eagle. Worryingly closer, you hear some kind of a moan. Time passes. At last, the lips on the door creak open, and the door speaks.
Enter.
The face melts back into the wood of the door, and the whirls swirl back into a floral pattern. A loud metallic click can be heard from deep within.
Pity the location's so inadequate.
The servant responds with a blank look. The masked servant. The creature barely notices you.
Human graves. Their lives are so fleeting.
Here lies Tree Keller, fell from a great height, a loss keenly felt.
He prays. Such unfaltering faithfulness. A pity the gods aren't listening.
Here lies Roland Harkwood, beloved husband of Prudence, attentive father to Niles, buried near his daughters. The lizard hums tunelessly, not a melody exactly, but more of a meandering moan.
10 spans under, humans slept. 10 spans up, the dwarves were kept. Lizards burned in lasting flame. Elven trees toward skies did aim. Keeping watch, tending graves.
She ekes out a few more notes, then smiles at you with the innocence of a newborn.
It helps me remember where the dead go. Sometimes they don't stay where I put them. That's okay.
The ensuing silence lasts for several seconds, until she picks up the melody once again and turns away. Within the stone garden's walls, peace be thy immortal fortune, relieved of toil, free of indignity, until thou art called to serve.
Death prowls above. Ascend only if you seek it.
The creature barely notices your presence.